Welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. It's Collection Connection, the game that seeks the common ground between my music library and that of my brother, Plastic Eric, but is actually just an excuse to talk about records. I'll start with the album that he presented this past Monday and give you my impressions of it. Then I'll talk about an album from my own collection that shares some facet or quirk with it, where we challenge you to suss out just what that connection is. Don't worry though, it's like an episode of Law and Order. There's a definite continuity that runs through all the episodes, but still easily consumed in standalone form if you just want to talk about the music I'm discussing. And so today we've got the 1987 EP Living Daylight from Melbourne's own Hunters and Collectors. We've done a number of bands out of Melbourne. That's even been a connection before. A real hotbed of creativity, it would seem. From that, I have forged a connection to Red, Hot, and Blue, a 1990 various artist compilation of Cole Porter covers that sought to educate the public about the AIDS epidemic while fundraising for continued research and relief. Will we outsmart you, or can you find out the thing that these two releases have in common? If you believe you've worked it out, you can put your guess in the comments, and the first right answer will earn 1 point of no discernible value, as well as getting a shout out in my brother's next video. But first, let's officially reveal the previous connection between the prior pair of albums, those being the Georgia EP from Death Cab for Cutie and Living Daylight from Hunters and Collectors. And the thing that they have in common is that both bands were named for songs. Death Cab for Cutie was a song from the Bonzo Dog Doodah band. I knew I was going to mess that up. And Hunters and Collectors took their name from a song from Can. So that was the connection. Nobody guessed it, so we get that point. We will stock that away for use on a rainy day. And with that, we can get on with the show. All right, so Eric did show the Living Daylight, an EP from Hunters and Collectors. He had it on cassette, and the reason he had it on cassette is because he bought it all the way back in the 80s when we were living in the same house, and I knew he had some Hunters and Collectors, and I think that they had a song that I liked. I think it may have been January Rain, that for the life of me, I think because I was looking through their albums and not EPs, I could never come up with in the intervening years. It was something that some years later popped into my head, and I was trying to figure out what it was, and I believe that's the only Hunters and Collectors album that he had. I know I looked at Fate several times. I think their album from 88, 89 or so, but never did come up with it. So it was interesting to queue it up, but I have to admit I did that several days ago, and it has kind of gone in one ear and out the other. I can barely remember anything that stood out about it. Not that it stood out as either bad or fantastic. January Rain didn't hit my ear and make me go, oh, that's that song I was looking for all those years. So it's strange, but yeah, I only really found the time to play it through once, and I'll have to give it another go because I want to like Hunters and Collectors. I know that founding member Mark Seymour is the older brother of Crowded House bassist Nick Seymour, and I really like the Hunters and Collectors song Throw Your Arms Around Me, which I understand to be sort of a standard almost now in Australia. It's an Australian classic, and Hunters and Collectors originated this song, but I'm only familiar with Neil Finn and Crowded House type covers, versions that he's done, not really being familiar with the original at all. But I think it's a little bit rougher, and because I heard the Neil Finn ones first, I kind of prefer those. I think it happens often. The first way you hear a song is probably going to be your preferred way of hearing it. Nothing too surprising there. But yeah, I definitely have to give it another go to really let it resonate, sink in, see if it was felt like something I wanted to follow up on now that I know that those tracks appear on the CD version of their Human Frailty album, which has a good review on AllMusic. Seems to be regarded as a good album. That would be interesting to procure a copy of that, perhaps. But I do need to give it more of a chance and see if it actually hits my ear in a way that makes me want to listen to more Hunters and Collectors. So unfortunately, that's all I really have there for Hunters and Collectors. So I will move it along right away to the album that I'm connecting it to, which is Red Hot and Blue. Now, this is a compilation that was released in 1990, was the first thing issued by the Red Hot organization. I wish I had looked that up right before we started so I can remember the actual name of the charity, but it's Red Hot something. And was a big success, this album. It sold over 1 million copies, even though they've had a bunch of releases over the years, some of which I've seen, some of which I haven't. This first one, this initial one's the only one that really hit the mark, and it is just stacked with acts, especially from the year 1990, all doing original covers, meaning they're covers, but they're not pulling, songs from albums. These were all recorded specifically for this compilation from the likes of U2, Kirsty MacColl and the Pogues, Sinead O'Connor, Fine Young Cannibals, Annie Lennox, Erasure, Thompson Twins, Katie Lang, Aztec Camera, which was a big deal to me, one of my favorite bands, Lisa Stansfield, the Neville Brothers. It's just packed with big acts from the year of 1990. So yes, I've seen like Red Hot and Dance, Red Hot and Cool, Red Hot and Country, all these sort of different variations, but I don't know that any of them stuck the landing quite as much as Red Hot and Blue, although an album that we have talked about before, No Alternative, I think was actually the third album in this series. Didn't share the Red Hot title, but was a compilation put out, again, for this AIDS charity. And so the booklet is designed in addition to having the lyrics for all the songs, all of these being Cole Porter songs that are being covered by these artists. It's got the lyrics, it's got a lot of info trying to clear up misinformation about the spread of AIDS in 1990. Was near kind of peak panic about the epidemic. So to try and promote some understanding of how it spread and how you didn't need to be afraid of people who had AIDS or were HIV positive, that was just trying to turn the corner on how these people who were afflicted with this were being dealt with by the public. So that's pretty honorable, I think. My money went toward the charity, so I'm glad of that. But honestly, the thing that moved me to buy it was, the artists and the songs present. It opens with Nena Cherry doing a cover of I've Got You Under My Skin, and that one is very rewritten. I think it was actually released as a single, and that had a lot of words added from or by Nena Cherry actually talking about kind of AIDS. So that was a cover that was really rewritten to make the larger point that the compilation was trying to make. Pretty much all the other ones are more just straight covers of the original songs. Some in a very reinterpretive style, and some in a fairly straight classical style, or not classical, but classic style. The Annie Lennox, Every Time We Say Goodbye, is very sort of reverent and slow and doesn't try and reinvent the wheel. The Aztec Camera, which I really liked at the time, is a cover of Do I Love You. That's the thing that closes the album. But I've since started to feel like it's maybe just a little too slow and syrupy. It goes on for almost 5 minutes and it just kind of drags. So even though I felt it deeply at the time, it ended up being a bit of a disappointment, but there's some great stuff on here. There's a Tom Waits cover of It's All Right With Me that scandalously, I might even say, is my favorite Tom Waits song, favorite Tom Waits performance. I have a couple of his albums. I know he's an acquired taste, but this is a place where he does a very Tom Waits kind of Shaggy Dog cover of, did I already say this? It's All Right With Me, that I feel like works like gangbusters. It's got a blah, 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 blah. And I think I like it a lot. It was one of the earliest Tom Waits things that I had, and I think I maybe had Frank's Wild Years before that, but that was it. and then encouraging. It made me think for a while that I was more of a Tom Waits fan than I actually am. I like Frank's Wild Years. I love this cover of It's All Right With Me, but his other stuff I've been kind of hit and miss on. So there's that. And likewise, David Byrne does a cover of Don't Fence Me In that I incorporate sort of his South American inspirations at the time, taking those kind of the big Latin drums into the mix, and that's a lot of fun. I like his cover of Don't Fence Me In quite a bit. The U2 Night and Day is not necessarily great. It was the other song I think made a little noise as a single off of here and sort of served as a precursor, this is 1990, to the electronic sound that they were going to be moving in towards with things like Achtung Baby and the 90s that they had going through Zooropa and things like that. Erasure, I have a soft spot for Erasure. They're Too Darn Hot is cute. I think it's not great, it's not terrible. It's just kind of there, and it's a fun little artifact song to have in their catalog. Neville Brothers, never been a huge fan of the Neville Brothers, but they do a very earnest In the Still of the Night. And Sinead O'Connor, likewise, in 1990, she does a cover of You Do Something to Me that is very whispery and prefigured her Are You Not My Girl kind of album of covers. I don't know if this inspired that, but she went from the big caterwauling Sinead O'Connor that I love to a very whispery, chanteusy vocal style that I just didn't like as much. Even though it's fine, it bothers me a little bit because it seemed like it moved her into an era that I liked less than Lion and the Cobra and I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. Fine Young Cannibals do Love for Sale. That's an interesting little bump in their catalog. Right at the end of their career, 1990s, about when they stopped being a band. But yeah, it is a great, interesting mix. There's a band that I don't really know called La Negresse Verte. Their cover of I Love Paris is, I think, one of the highlights of the album. I enjoy that one. And Jimmy Somerville, my God, Jody Watley. It is just stacked with interesting performances, and it was enough of a thing that it does still exist. It's funny, it has a couple things in common with recent Collection Connection albums. It is an album full of covers, like the Georgia EP was, my last pick. And Debbie Harry and Iggy Pop do a kind of a thrown off, Well Did You Ever? That feels like it was done in one take, very loose. Iggy Pop especially is cracking himself up. And so Eric's recent Rock at the Edge compilation was a compilation that had an Iggy Pop track on it. This has an Iggy Pop track on it. So it's funny, it's got a couple of connections kind of going on with some recent choices, but there is a connection specifically with the Hunters and Collectors Living Daylight. And if you think you might know what that is, you can put that down in the comments. And on Monday, my brother, Plastic Eric, he's the guy who plays the other half of this game. He's the one who played the Hunters and Collectors. He's over on his channel, Plastic Soundwave Cult. I've started moving this stuff toward the end of the video so people don't turn it off because I'm saying the same thing over and over at the beginning of the video. But yeah, over on the Plastic Soundwave Cult, he will find something in his collection that connects to Red Hot and Blue, and he will present that on Monday. And that's all I got. So I thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Good show, Ponsonby.